Have you ever been deposed before?
I have.
Have you done this kind of a process in the past?
The only thing that's different is a video, which I
Okay.
have no problem with.
Well, tell me, what's the last time that you were deposed?
I think in 1995, 98, somewhere around in there.
What was the circumstance?
Um, Arrest that I made in Wise County, a guy sued me.
Okay. And what was, do you remember where you got sued? Did you get sued in federal court, state
It
court?
was federal court.
Okay. What was the name of the person?
William Billy Bowers,
Okay.
but he was the person who sued me.
All right. And where were you working at the time of the lawsuit?
Town of Appalachia,
All right. And,
Police Department.
Okay. And you were an officer at the time?
Yes,
Anybody else get sued besides you?
yes, sir.
Who else got sued?
Myself, the Town of Appalachia officials, meaning the town council, the chief of the Town of Appalachia, chief of Big Stone Gap Police Department, and one of their officers from Big Stone Gap.
Okay. What was the nature of the complaint, or what was the allegation in the lawsuit?
I don't really know. I can't remember what the charges were.
Okay. Do you remember what happened? Do you remember the arrest itself?
Bits and pieces about it.
Well, tell me about that.
I can't discuss that. It's been settled. It's a confidential agreement.
Well, the arrest itself would not be confidential. The actions that you took that night would not be confidential.
You can tell them what you remember. My understanding is that the settlement of that case was pursuant to a confidentiality agreement. I don't know anything other than what I've just said, but you can tell them what you remember about the actual arrest.
I don't have my documents in front of me.
Mhm.
And it's been some time ago, so I'm gonna hit the highlights of it.
Okay.
I was dispatched to a apartment complex in reference to a breaking and entering in progress. And I arrived there and met with the complainant, and I took the information from her. She told me that Billy had came to her apartment, forced his way into her apartment, threw a beer bottle back through her apartment, and there was a hole in the wall back there. And she told me that she had tried to call the 911 dispatch to dispatch the police to her apartment. And about the time that she got him on the phone, he came over, yanked the wires out of her door, the plug-in, disconnecting her from the dispatcher. I took all the information that I could from my report and possible charges. I knew Billy, but I believe this was my first contact first time that I'd ever had to deal with him through my job. So I went looking for him in the apartment complex, and I couldn't find him. And I left and then come back about 19 minutes later.
Okay.
And when I did, there was an apartment building beside of hers, and he was ducking down in behind the banisters in that particular building. So I went up to talk with him. He was very intoxicated. He was a juvenile at that time too. He was very intoxicated. I talked with him and told him that I had a complaint on him, but he was not in a condition to where I could talk with him and discuss it. And I told him I needed to talk with him and his parents together. I then tried to find out where he was staying and who I could release him to at that time. And he told me he was staying in that particular apartment. So I told him, I said, we need to get somebody to come to the door. So he starts knocking on the door there, and nobody would answer the doors. And then he starts pounding on it. And he said, if I can't get the door open, I'm gonna kick it off the hinges, something to that effect. I said, Billy, don't do that. I said, we will get this taken care of. So I started knocking on the door, and finally a young boy answered the door, a juvenile. And I asked him if he knew Billy. He said, yeah. He said, all of us is in bed, asleep. We've been trying to get Billy in here all night.
Okay.
So he's been outside drinking and he's drunk, and we've been trying to get him in here. Billy had also told me that his brother lived there. I was aware he had a sister, but not a brother. I didn't know whether he did or he didn't. So, anyway, I told him he needed to go inside and sleep, just go to bed and not come back out the rest of the night. And if I did, then I'd have to take him in custody after that. So he opens the door up. He pushes the door back, puts his hands in the doorway like that, and he leans out and he says, "Randall," he said, "I ought to just put your head in the concrete here right now." And I said, "Billy, don't be talking that way." I said, don't push your luck. I said, you're good right now, and I don't want to do any more than I have to do. We can take care of this later. Just go inside the apartment. So he lunged towards me, and when he lunged towards me, I maced him and arrested him.
Okay.
I arrested him for being intoxicated in public. He ran back through the apartment and ran into a bedroom. There was 2 bedrooms in the back, and he ran to the one in the left, locked the door. It sounded like he was tearing the place apart. I don't know what he was doing in there. He was just making a lot of noise. Well, I told the young boy, I said, "Who rents this apartment?" And he told me who it was. I can't remember the guy's name now, but he told me who it was. I said, "Where is he at? I need to talk with him because I run somebody in his apartment. He needs to know about this." So we get him out of bed, and I'm standing there telling him about it. He's cooperative, and he wants the guy to go with him. And we're standing there, and Billy comes out, grabs me around the neck. And, I mean, he's choking me.
How big is Billy?
He's over 6 foot tall, weighed probably around 200 or more pounds
Okay.
at that time. Slammed me back against the wall. I had a flashlight in my right hand when he slammed me against the wall. There was a boy on this side, one in front of me, and another one around here. There was 3 of them trying to pull him off of me, and I was trying to get him off. I couldn't get him off, so I bring my flashlight up, and I hit him right here in the forehead, and I knocked him flat on his back on the bed. I mace him the second time. I go over and try to handcuff him, and when I tried to handcuff him, he jumped up and ran towards me again. At that time, I swung my flashlight. I hit him at the same, almost exact. It was over just a little bit, but in the same area.
Okay.
I didn't hit him in the top of the head. I hit him right here above the eye, in this area here. I knocked him back on the bed again, and I started to handcuff him that time. Again, this was foam pepper spray that I was using, and foam pepper spray don't work the same as the aerosol or the stream. And
Is that different than what they call OC pepper spray?
it's the same thing, only it's in the foam,
Okay.
foam type. Well, anyway, he was slinging that stuff off as fast as I put it on him. It was affecting him, but it wasn't having a good enough effect to where I could subdue him without using it. And I went to reach for my mace again when I went to handcuff him, and he jumped up and ran towards me. And when he did, I couldn't find my mace. So to escape, because I was armed, and all these people in there trying to help me bring him under control, we couldn't do it. I couldn't get my mace, and I knew if he got that mace, that we had it in there because I was armed. We couldn't control him. So I start back out through the apartment, and when I do, my mace is right there near the door. I dropped it. Evidently, when I went to put it in my holster, I missed my holster. And I picked that mace up as I was running out the door. I bent down and just fast swiped it up and ran back through the apartment, and I turned around and came back, and when I did, he'd run back into the room, and I went back in there to try to deal with him again. I knew my backup was on the way from Big Stone Gap. I didn't know how far away they were. But anyway, I kept talking to Billy and talking to him, and finally my backup arrived. And Billy said, I'm going with you, but I'm going out the door myself. I said, "No, Billy, you're not." I said, "You're under arrest, and I'm not going to give you the opportunity to escape from me. I'm going to have my hands on you. Now, we can walk you out and handcuff you on the outside, but I'm not going to give you the opportunity to escape from it." So he lets me grab hold of him. I walk him down the steps. At the bottom of the steps, there's a little landing down there. And Officer Mark Jones from Big Stone Gap Police Department grabbed hold of his left hand. I had his right. And we both pushed him, not shoving him, but we pushed him against the wall there. And when we did, I had my flashlight in my right hand, and I was kind of holding the top of him. Brought his arm around, and when I did, he just broke loose, hit me in the stomach, knocked my light out of my hand. I picked my light back up. Me and Mark both shoved him against the wall at that time. I grabbed both hands when we got him behind him, and I held him while Mark put the cuffs on him. When we let him down the steps to the car, he was covered in blood from here down. He had a cut in the top of the head, right up in here. Nowhere around in this area, it was up here.
Was that from the wall?
I can't say where he got that from. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from. Anyway, as I was leading him to the car, I noticed this. And I got him over there, and I took my flashlight, and I shined it on his head, and I seen that big cut. So I dispatched the rescue squad. When the rescue squad got there, we took him out of the car, took him back to the ambulance. He started spitting blood everywhere, slinging blood on everybody. Headbutting his head against the ambulance, against the ambulance door and so forth. By this time, as several officers that had arrived there, I think Officer Joe Baird, who was working for us at that time, he came up while Billy's back was turned to keep him from slinging blood everywhere like he was. Billy kicked his legs out from under him when we put him down on the ground and put a shield over him.
Okay.
And then we was able to get him in the ambulance. I disarmed myself and rode with the ambulance to the hospital, and he was taken down there, and he required stitches on the top of his head. And then I charged him with several charges. I can't remember what all the charges was, but I think it was a total of 6 or 7 charges.
All right.
In
Was obstruction of justice one of them?
I can't remember,
Okay.
but I do know that out of the 6 or 7 charges that I charged him with, there was one of them that he didn't get convicted of in juvenile court, and that was breaking and entering.
That was the one he did not get convicted of?
He didn't get convicted of that one.
Okay, did he get convicted of all the other ones?
All the other ones.
Okay.
And then he was appealed to, it was appealed to circuit court. And at the circuit court level, he was convicted of 2 things, and I can't remember what they were.
Okay. Was he acquitted of the other ones, or did they just drop the other charges?
And I think that, you talking about the Commonwealth Attorney
Yeah,
dropping?
when you got to the circuit court, did they continue to prosecute him for all the charges, or did they work any kind of deals out, or do you know?
No, he took a jury trial.
Okay.
But they convicted him of 2 things, and I want to say that obstruction of justice was one of them.
Okay.
And that's one he got convicted of, and curse and abuse. But without my records being here, or without his file, I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. Now, with respect to what's his last name?
Billy Bowers,
Bowers. Bowers?
yes.
All right. With respect to Mr. Bowers, was he represented by an attorney when he was going through the circuit court and the juvenile court?
I cannot remember that.
Okay.
And I really, be honest with you, can't remember if he's represented by an attorney in circuit court or not.
All right. When you were sued with the other officers and with some of these jurisdictions, was he represented by an attorney?
Yes.
Do you remember who it was, or who represented him?
Not right off the hand.
Was it somebody local to the area?
It was somebody in Gate City.
Okay.
It was 2 of them, male and female.
All right. Does the name Kilgore ring any bells?
It does, but it was not him.
Okay. All right. Now, what happened with the suit? It was filed in federal court in Big Stone Gap?
It's filed in federal court, and I went all the way up to we did depositions, and then after that, they called me and told me everything was confidential, but it was settled.
All right. So it never went to a jury trial? Okay.
Your answer is no.
Excuse me?
You shook your head.
No, it did not go to a trial. I'm sorry.
You have to make your answers audible for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who was representing you at the time?
Wayne Austin.
All right. And do you know whether or not Wayne Austin was representing you pursuant to any kind of insurance policy or any kind of indemnity through the town of Appalachia?
I want to say that he represented me through the insurance company.
Okay. Well, and I guess my real question is, how did you get in touch with him? How did he get appointed or advised to
Well,
represent you?
now I'm gonna tell you this, I don't know how he got appointed, but we had a certain period of time to respond back on this suit. And I waited and I waited and waited after I got the notice that we were being sued, you know, and I kept talking to my chief and he kept telling me that the attorney was gonna be contacting me soon, but when, he didn't know. So finally, it went on so long, and I felt like we was gonna have to do a response on the suit. So I made an appointment with Wayne Austin. And when I met with Wayne, and Wayne told me that he had already been appointed to represent me in that case, and that's the first time that I knew that he was representing me through the insurance company.
Okay. Now, who else, if anybody, represented the town or the chief or anybody at Big Stone Gap?
I know that Mark Jones, Officer Mark Jones, was represented by 2 attorneys.
Okay. Do you remember who they were?
No, I don't. And in Big Stone Gap, I only had 1.
Do you know who represented Big Stone Gap?
No, I don't.
Now, when you were deposed, where were you deposed? Do you remember?
In Bristol, there was a law firm down there, and Bristol was one of the places.
Okay. Do you remember who the court reporter was?
No, I don't.
All right. Did you ever get a copy of the deposition? Was it transcribed?
I'm sure it was, but I never got a copy of it.
Okay. Well, other than that deposition, have you been deposed before?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me the context.
Let's see. Back when I first went to the academy in '89.